Hello and welcome to Eye on South Asia. I'm Bhavna Vanan.
And I'm Sunil Hali.
Every week, we'll discuss the latest news, events, and happenings with South Asians living in North America. Let's get started with our top story. We have something that is being termed the $2.4 billion headache between US and Pakistan.
Yep, this is about the next package that US plans to give it as a federal aid to Pakistan for 2013. And in the backdrop of what's going on between the two countries, it's like a difficult, challenging relationship, whether you want to keep it going or you want to restrict it, because money has rarely landed in the right way. So the Secretary of State, Mrs. Clinton, was in front of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and she was being questioned about this because she announced the $2.4 billion aid in 2013 to Pakistan.
Yes.
And obviously everybody is questioning it. Is it a good idea to give it? Because it's more than what was given for 2012. Senator Jim Webb, he's a Virginia Democrat, asked, are you sure that increase in funding to Pakistan military is for the right cause?
Right. And also he's expressing concern because Pakistan at the same time, while receiving aid, is expanding their nuclear program and bases. So that's something that the US is trying to restrict.
And Mrs. Clinton clearly agreed. She said, look, we need to continue to help Pakistan and the common man. But she was not sure that she can guarantee that all the money that will be given as an aid will land for the right reasons. In fact, she raised a very good point that Pakistan continues to invest their revenues unfairly into military establishment and the nuclear program, while this money should go for a common man's need, their food, their education, their health supplies. So she's going to be keeping a very, very close eye. She's very clear that they'll be keeping a very close eye on Pakistan on use of these funds. But at the same time, she continues to maintain that she cannot guarantee, and nobody can guarantee whether the money will be only used for those reasons.
Right.
So that's why it's called the $2.4 billion headache. So Bhavna, on the other hand, that's the second big story of this week, continues to be the Iran's posturing and the sanctions against Iran, and India being the third angle to it, who continues to maintain good relationships with Iran. And the question is that when US did the nuclear treaty with India, India was, really shouting from the rooftop that US is the best thing to happen. India's people are extremely grateful, and people of India love you, Mr. Bush, in 2008. And everybody thought that India had come off an age and come out of the real grip of what used to be called a NAM, non-aligned movement. And it's kind of leaning towards a good relationship with US. But this one factor, is continuing to cause serious concerns because India continues to maintain its relationship with Iran. In fact, it's one of the most glaring friend and very visible friend. But the issue here is that what is the choice India has? India has obviously cut down the oil needs from Iran, but it still needs to maintain. It is, I think, the second largest supplier of India's oil needs. And India has continued to maintain that they'll drop the needs. They'll take other sources also, but they can't just cut it loose. Especially, if India sees an increase in the oil price, even if it's a $10 increase, that will hurt the economy so badly, which is anyway on a growth scale really going down. We were kind of talking continuously of double-digit growth here.
Yes.
We are almost closer to less than 8%, right, mid sevens. And this could bring it down further. India cannot afford it.
Yes, exactly.
And the question remains that what is the choice India has and what is the choice India will make? Like I said, just a few years ago, India and US were kind of very closely working with each other. In fact, the oil policy, which was under the Minister for Petroleum at that time, who was Manishankar Iyer, was taken out.
And
and
he
he
was
was replaced.
actually he was an outspoken advocate of the gas pipeline to Iran, and
Yep.
that's ironic that he was taken out, and now India is defending this relationship.
See, the thing is, the WikiLeaks, the cable leaks that came out said it was after the pressure that US put on India to remove for the reason you just mentioned, and his replacement, which is Murali Deora, is a very well-known businessman and kind of pro-America, and he would have
Right.
helped. So, it's a very difficult situation for India on the Iran issue. And including Mrs. Clinton has maintained, as we reported to our viewers last week as well, that the three countries, which is India, China, and Turkey, are kind of looking to isolate Iran with the tough sanctions or the punishments that America and its allies have given. But she says, look, India has a tough position, and it's not necessary that we are able to see exactly these three countries are doing to isolate Iran.
She says that their public statements have been, they might be a little soft or a little non-committal in
Right.
this situation, but she asserts that there is action that's going to come out of this, and it's going to be in favor of the U.S. sanctions against Iran.
Well, that's what it seems eventually. Bob Menendez, who is from New Jersey, has been very strongly coming after this issue, and he wants proper answers. And he asked Mr. Clinton, we have had very intense and very blunt conversations with each of these countries. And Mrs. Clinton says, look, we think, and she says, I think that there are a number of steps that are that we are pointing at to them to take, so that we believe that they are moving out of Iran. They are leaning towards this group that has got the sanctions against Iran, and she feels that it may not be as visible as it is, but they are all doing their bit.
Right.
And hopefully they should do more, and we need to put a constant pressure on them.
Yes, and she says that the best peaceful diplomatic effort that they can do is a vigorous enforcement of the U.S. sanctions policy. So that's what they're pushing for constantly in this situation.
Exactly. On India's side, it has not a very good story, because just the other day, India and China relationship seems to be going on the right track. The Chinese top diplomat Dai Bingo, who had come for another round, probably 15th, 16th round of diplomatic discussions with India just early part of this year, and now again we have a situation because they're again squabbling against the frontiers, which is essentially Arunachal Pradesh, which is in the far east of India, and China continues to maintain that Arunachal Pradesh is the southern part of Tibet, which is, according to them, a claimed territory. And India's Defense Minister A.K. Antony visited Arunachal Pradesh for some exercise, and China took a strong exception to that he should not be visiting that. It's unnecessary trying to complicate this matter.
Right.
And the minister, Antony, took it very harshly, and he was very clear that these comments from China are really objectionable and very unfortunate. And he was very clear that Arunachal Pradesh is a part of India. It's a huge forest land, but it's clearly a part of India, and China should have no reservations, no thinking otherwise about it. And this back and forth about the territorial claims is causing again a grief between India and China.
Right, and there's also a possibility and a kind of growing fear where China might seek to occupy these pockets of land, right, in Arunachal
Which is now,
Pradesh,
but
right.
earlier, if you go back a few years ago, like 2005, 2006, there was kind of an unwritten understanding between the two countries who is wherever it is and is going to be the way it is. But everybody thought they're coming together and things will settle down. But now again, it seems that the territorial affairs have taken again precedence and become a sore point.
Yes, and India's put their foot down. The foreign Minister S.M. Krishna said India will not tolerate external interference of China into Indian territorial affairs.
Absolutely. That is one thing India or any nation will be particular about. They don't want any foreign intrusion into its land. You know, what happened is there was a military delegation going to China, and one of the senior ranking officers was from Arunachal Pradesh, and he was not granted visa to visit China with the group.
Right.
Because they felt he is our own citizen, so why is he looking for a visa? And India took such a strong exception, they cancelled the trip. So it's not a very pleasant relationship between India and China constantly since late 50s, early 60s when China first time invaded India, against the backdrop of the trip from the then President Chou En-lai, who had continuously claimed that India, China is bhai like brothers, and then he waged a war against us. So since then, Indian and Chinese relationship have been under great strain.
Right.
Coming back to our own home, U.S. Congress has passed both. Both sides have passed pretty much, except for a very small exception by one or two people about the most authoritarian anti-protest law. This comes out of what happened in Wall Street occupation, and it says the Secret Service provides bodyguards not just to the US president but to a broad layer of top figures in the political establishment, including presidential candidates and foreign dignitaries. So what happens is these people will maybe visit these places where they do not want to allow, and they call them as the places of national significance, and they do not want any kind of what you call the terminology was tossed, the Wall Street, what happened in the Wall Street, that people took over and they occupied the area. Right. And they don't want that kind of situation to happen all over again.
Yes.
And they have restricted any kind of such demonstrations in places which could be, like I said, called a building which could be visited by the President Obama. So under the pretext, a very loosely worded law, and any kind of such representation at such places will be called, which will be considered as a criminalized conduct.
Right, and this is also called the anti-Occupy law because it's really stemming from all of the furor created by Occupy Wall Street, and just the fact that there are 20 million unemployed, 30 million underemployed, and 50 million people on food stamps. You know, these numbers are really increasing as time goes on. So they're concerned that this high level of dissatisfaction is just going to create more fuel to this Occupy movement and similar sorts of movements. So they really want to put, you know, a stop to these sorts of protests.
But if you really think about it, this kind of demonstrations, as you said, you know, these numbers that you just stated are very, very unfortunate for US. And that is the kind of dissatisfied people who are going after Wall Street and
yes.
you know, making a demonstration because there is an imbalance, there is not proper conduct by the financial institutions, and they're making a lot of hue and cry about it.
And Democrats and Republicans are on the same page with this issue, with the exception of some Ron Paul supporters.
Yep.
So that's where they stand on that.
Yep. India has seen the military exercise, a joint exercise which India does regularly, and this one is in the backdrop of Rajasthan, which is the war drill. And what they do, it involves the infantry combat vehicles and armored personnel carriers, which is to practice for counter-terrorism operation. And this took place, which is a good thing because the two countries came closer, the forces work hand in hand together, and prepare for in eventuality of if there is a need to work under the United Nations together.
Right. It's also known as like the UN peacekeeping sort of drills and that sort of thing.
Right.
So, all right. Well, we have reached the end of this segment, and we're going to take a short break, but we'll be right back on Eye on South Asia.